Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Hello, and how are you, one and all? Hope everyone is doing well. Feel like I've been away for a week, and really it's only been 3 days. But yesterday I took on the daunting task of washing my son's hair, a necessary evil. And as I've shared before, it's a whole day affair, and it's a full body workout. And I happened to start late in the day, well, actually early evening, but late in the day, because I had some other things I had to do earlier, and I didn't want to put it off one more day. It just was past time for him to have his hair washed. And it was well into the next morning. Not literally the sun coming up, but I just, no matter what, I thought because I clipped it a great deal last time I washed it that it would be even, much more manageable now that I took a significant amount off, because his hair used to be really long. And I took a lot off because it was needed. I had never really given him an official haircut, a proper haircut, I should say, since he was a baby. So, his ends still could use a couple inches clipped, but it is much more manageable, and it does curve some of the stress, but because it's so thick and curly and and I gotta be so careful. He's a trooper. He's not super tender-headed, but just the sheer fact of being careful with somebody else's hair more than you would be for yourself, because your pain threshold, all of that all together makes for a very exhausting event. So anyway, that's why I didn't post yesterday. And I had all intentions of just doing a late night post when I was done, but late night never came before I was done washing his hair and stuff. So here I am today, and my greatest intention is to make up for at least yesterday that was lost, and find some time to double up on the message, maybe even over the weekend if anything. But worst case scenario, it just is what it is. And Monday is come and gone, and here we are on Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. And we'll just see what the Spirit has to say on today. All right, maybe it was necessary for me to be away yesterday. I don't know why it would be, but perhaps it was. So let's see what we got. King of Pentacles, and this peeking out is, the Star card, interesting. And then this peeking out is the Five of Wands. So we got some type of competition over here. When we're talking about the Star card, it could just be competition over spots, I don't know, fame and fortune, probably, yeah. So yeah, some type of fame and fortune that somebody's in competition for. And then there's someone, I'm getting the sense that this person is kind of like on the outside looking in, observing the competition. But I don't get a great energy from this Three of Wands. It's like somebody that might even be instigating the competition and sitting back, kind of waiting to see how it all unfolds. Who, if anyone, wins the battle or the duel or whatever the heck this is. I guess it can't be a duel if it's more than two people, but whatever this melee is at the Five of Wands, it's like somebody sitting back. I just heard like admiring their handiwork. So it could be somebody that instigated a whole bunch of confusion and chaos, and now they're just sitting back, just watching it unravel. Or they were the source of a whole bunch of chaos within a group, but somehow have found their way to the fray to, or excuse themselves, or at least they're trying to excuse themselves from it, and like watch from a distance, see everybody, see everything crumble, or everything falter, or to watch people fight over notoriety or a spot, a position, some power. Whomever it is that may have been cited that feels like they have an advantage being on the outside looking in, and they also feel like they kind of have created a shortcut for themselves to what it is that perhaps everyone's fighting over. But that doesn't feel like good energy, so I don't know how that could be. Unless in the higher frequency, it literally is someone that's on the outside of the fray that's not allowing himself to be entangled with meaningless competition, and perhaps they actually are closer to what is objectified or what is idolized here with the fame and fortune by, doing much less to gain much more. That could be the upside of it, but I don't know. At first I just saw something kind of fishy. So I don't know. I'm gonna put these all back and we'll see where it goes. But it could be on the lower frequency, but it could absolutely be on the higher frequency of somebody kind of like taking themselves out of the chaos and confusion and competition. Like they're not even subscribed to that energy at all, because they feel like they don't have to be. They feel like they have their own fortune to look forward to, like their own ships coming in, where he's sitting up here peaceful on the hill at a distance, not even having to lift a finger, really, just to wait. So I don't know. It could be either one of those. Let's see. Of course, I like the higher. Okay, the Magician. All right, again, this could have two sides, but let's say it is the Magician in the upright. Well, the one on, I thought the bottom card was going to be what I started with because I turned the deck over, but no, it's the Queen of Pentacles. So that's different. So we started with the King of Pentacles. Now we have the Queen and the Star and the Three of Wands. So that Three of Wands energy could be just the sheer confidence someone has in their manifestation abilities to command their creativity to work for them, ahead of them, so that in that Five of Wands there's no need to fight, because someone that's in a high vibrational energy of the Magician knows that whatever they're in alignment to manifest is as good as done. It's created. There's, if you have all of the natural resources to to bring about an outcome or an experience, you certainly, within the best intentions, of course, have all the spiritual support to do so too. So that Three of Wands is, in that case, would be the ideal energy of being in the posture to receive what you've already put in work for. Wow, my throat is just conking out on me right now. And the Queen of Pentacles doubles down on that receptive energy, as she is the feminine force that would be more in the passive posture than the aggressive. the Five of Wands, if nothing else, is certainly aggressive, even if it's like innocent competition or business competition, or even fun and games at its most harmless, you know what I mean, like actual play, like playing a basketball game or something like that. It's still with an intention to forge an outcome, to manufacture an outcome. Whereas the magician works more intentionally with natural elements, and the Three of Wands is more projective and receptive to receive the physical manifestation of what was projected in spirit first and foremost. And more energetically, I would say, than spirit, because it's not like the Temperance card, but certainly energetically, where it's literally the number one, which is that Roman numeral 1, which is an I. So it literally is about putting yourself in the posture to be whatever it is that you are commanding, or whatever it is you're looking to create. Is really an emphasis on the identity first and foremost before it is the thing. The Five of Wands is more so the focus on things outside of you, whether it be your opponent, your comrades, the obstacle, the considerations for the manifestation. It's more externally focused. This is internally focused, but still certainly with the evidence of the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles and the Star yields some prosperous result. With the Star, certainly could be a connection to purpose, or what you feel is in alignment with your greatest potential, and also what you just truly desire to have, to have or do on a soul level, but all from the origins of the being, the identity. Yeah, okay, so that definitely makes sense with the Three of Wands, then, with it being more on the upside of things, and someone that knows the secret, like they know the sauce. They know that they don't have to throw themselves into the ring to prove any success, or to play by societal rules, or to even flex their machismo or anything like that. Like they don't feel allured into the conventional mediums of manifestation, which would be, elbow grease and hard work and sweat and hustle, no days off, all those types of energies where the grind never stops, and like stuff where okay, now I'm understanding now, where it's like you feel like if you're not doing it that way, where it's hustle 24/7 and no days off, no sleep, all those, I can't even think of all the things, but you know what I'm trying to say, like those things that sound like you about that work, or sounds like life is working you, depending on how you see it. Like, depending on how you see it, it's like pulling away from that mentality where it's really busyness that is like the I mean, not to say you can't be productive in having that mentality, but a lot of times it's just I don't even know how to explain that. It's just like it's literally like a mental conditioning of efficiency that people subscribe to or ascribe to feel like they are actually living above the fray and getting it how they live and making things move and shake and, really creating, when the shift from the fray or above the fray is to know that it really don't take all that. Like, you can do all that if you want to, and you won't be praised anymore or condemned anymore for that choice. But to be swept into that culture of that mentality and that psychology to some degree is more for show, or for the expression, and maybe even, like I said, your own personal conditioning to feel like you're doing something worthwhile than it actually is effective, is the point. And you could be busy and productive in a great deal of ways, but it still not necessarily be prosperous. And when we're talking about the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles, those are, in masculine and feminine form, very prosperous people. They're the ones that might have passive income or might have multiple investments, wise investments working for them. The ones that wake up to more money in their account before they really had to lift a finger, contrary to the hustle and grind mentality of, putting your back into it. It sounds good. It even looks cool when you have it on, ascribed on your wall and things like that. But you really got to consider, like, how much is it actually producing for you, as opposed to, again, more of the identity of your creativity first, being activated and asserted to be more attractive of the rewards and the return of your intentions. And that even speaks to the King and Queen of Pentacles being wise investors of their time, their energy, and their attention. Okay, so yeah, it's literally about the mentality of breaking off from the conventional mindset of work and return, or work and reward, and actually finding a settlement in less is more, And of course, if you just a worker bee and that's what you like to do and that's natural, then you could only be that much more productive. But I'm really speaking to the idea. I'm really speaking against the idea and the concept of doing a whole bunch of things or exhausting yourself, physically, particularly, energetically, generally, because it seems like the right thing to do, or even looks like a good thing to do, or looks impressive, or even yields some, reasonable result, but it really isn't regenerative. Like, it doesn't, if you had your choice, you really wouldn't want to expend your energy or exhaust yourself the way that you are for those results or rewards, especially if it could actually be, you could be reconditioned or redirected to know a more easeful way of acquiring those results, at least, and perhaps even better, which is what I think we're really talking about, especially when we're talking about the star. Because again, the star is about acting out in the quality of your divine design, like what you're in alignment with, which in most cases really isn't backbreaking or exhausting work. As a human being, you may tire physically, but it wouldn't be energetically exhausting or holistically exhausting to the point of depletion when you're doing the thing, first of all, being the person that you feel you're designed to be or in alignment to be. You're doing the thing that matches up with that, and you're intentional about it, the results that would reflect those 1 and 2 points of view. It shouldn't be that hard. It really shouldn't. I just don't, that maybe it's just me, but like, it's like 8 of Pentacles energy. Like, it should almost feel natural or easeful. And even if you do get lost in it for hours and hours, you don't come out mentally and physically and spiritually spent on account of it. Like, you know, if anything, you come out inspired from what you accomplished and energized on how to expand on it the next time you get back to work, you know, whenever that is. But I don't know. It's just the 5 of Wands gives an energy of just spending a lot of time, more so energy, but expending yourself on things that, as I was making reference, like casual, you know, not that serious, but in this case, meaning to be very serious, but kind of spending yourself in ways that is not really all that, it's not really yielding much. It's not really yielding much. If anything, it might even just be for appearances. Yeah, even if it's just to you, your own appearance. And then here we have the Hierophant, which is like the structured order of societal norms and corporation. And we know it ain't a whole lot of room, at least as it stands now, for innovation in work and return and your own personal investment into established entities right now anyway, because I feel the tide is changing on that. It's changed a great deal, for obviously since COVID, but there still is a structure and order to things that you kind of have to fit into the mold of to some degree to be valuable to whomever you serve or what capacity you serve in, and for it to be valuable to you, if at all, you know. So what are we saying about that? A new commitment in that regard? A new covenant, new establishments, new contracts, perhaps, that are more fair and balanced. So we could be actually talking about, like I'm saying, like how the tide is definitely turning and has been on that. Where there may be more, you know, companies may actually, like it'll be like more of a transfer of power, where companies may have to be more considerate again, because once upon a time they were on that track, but then after 2008, it kind of bounced back into the dark ages a little bit, I think, and then bounced forward again with COVID a little bit, but not in an advantageous way for everyone. It was kind of like, you know, I don't know, it wasn't a great situation as to how people began to work from home or have more flexibility in their work-life balance. It was circumstantial, you know. But on account of that, it's hard for things to completely go back to where they were in totality, I think, on any level of business, in leadership and management and, you know, any professional capacity on that scale, you know what I mean, from the top to the so-called bottom. And so I feel like the industries that want to survive are going to have to renegotiate their terms of what's the right word? Like their terms of well, just to put it plainly, there's going to have to be a renegotiation that the transfer of power, so to speak, is going to be more in the hands of the employee to kind of like establish a standard. And it may be individualized to some degree. Of course, some jobs you just gotta be there. You know what I mean? Like it ain't like every job has the flexibility to have a work from home schedule or travel or some type of flexibility. Like McDonald's, you just gotta show up. You know what I mean? Point blank. But it could even be more of a sweetening of the pot, so to speak, in terms of benefits and perks and things that would be more more what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, not tantalizing, but what's the word I'm looking for? Where it ultimately would I guess persuasive, maybe captivating, perhaps, to barter for loyalty and for conviction in the position that, you know, whatever position it is that you occupy. There's going to have to be a way to figure out, like, although it seems as though like nobody's hiring or good jobs are few and industries are kind of faltering left and right, so so is the individual entrepreneur, or at least the person that is finding their way out of that rat race, that Five of Wands energy, and realizing that they can be secure and much more satisfied doing something with less stress and that is more regenerative of their energy and overall more rewarding than the so-called reliability of a steady paycheck or benefits and, you know, retirement and things of that nature. It's like some people actually do want to work in industries that have availability, but they're still not, they're not so much willing to sacrifice all that they were before a certain time, even to have that sense of stability. You know, so it's like when you're weighing it up, you would take your chances on something that you could at least like more or less control the outcome of to some degree than to what seems more certain. So in that regard, companies are going to have to bend more to the will of the employee to kind of cater their process or their culture to support that, you know, that mentality where people just aren't that pressed anymore to compete for competitions or to exhaust all of their precious energy for some billionaire's bottom line. You know, it's kind of like a what's in it for me, because I'm the energy source. So what can you offer me that would make my time and my, you know, my investment worthwhile, whether it's better benefits packages or better more flexibility or educational resources, advancement opportunities. It's going to have to be something like no company is going to really, well, I'll say not many companies are going to be able to really thrive in this this changing of age without being intentional to really kind of appease their energy supply, i.e. their employees. And it may even mean taking a cut or a hit in ways that were, you know, unfathomable before. But in order to sustain, it's probably going to be a necessity. I was going to say a necessary evil. To me, it's not an evil, but to companies that thrive on, you know, advancing their bottom line, not depleting it, especially on account of internal expenditures, you know, it could be a hard pill to swallow, you know, but for sustainability, longevity, and ultimately to thrive and to even evolve beyond what projections may have been in a different time, it would be in the best interest overall for all. But getting ahead of a company, so to speak, or an organization to digest that just from the facts and figures from in black and white, is the challenge. So I don't know how quickly that turnaround gets to be, or what drastic circumstances would have to occur in order for it to be, like I said, almost like a twist of an arm, where it's like, okay, well, what do you want? What can I give you? You want to work from home 3 days a week? You need 5 weeks vacation. You need, educational reimbursement. You need childcare. What can we do for you? Just to make sure that you get in here and give us that good that you got that we can't get nowhere else. Because once the individual realizes how precious their personal energy is and steps out of that five of wands fray, is when you position yourself to be really to be a competitive commodity, to establish a rate that is not to be competitive with the market per se, but that is a bit of a high demand. But consider the pentacle energy with the king and the queen is high value. So to really establish a high demand in exchange for your high value is something that is pretty new, especially in the climate that we're presently in. It almost seems like lunacy, to establish yourself at a certain rate or position, or at a standard of sorts. And this could even just be energetically, not even talking about a job, but to establish certain standards, even just sheerly in terms of, craving fulfillment over finances seems kind of crazy. You know what I mean? When everything is so uncertain and shaky, it's like, you better get your ass in a job and stay there, as long as you can get a paycheck, guarantee you can eat. But the survival, I'll say the haves and the have-nots are those that know their worth and value and don't adjust that according to the so-called market as we know it, as we knew it, as we know it, or as it's so-called projected to be. Because your price is your price, your standard is your standard. And if you gotta withhold until that standard is met, or until that price is fulfilled, then you'd be doing yourself a greater service than to negotiate at a lower rate, or to settle for anything less. Those that are still submitted to the rat race, feeling that that's all they have choice in doing, are the have-nots in this case. And that it don't matter what job you're working in. You could be at McDonald's, you could be a custodian, you could be a tech executive, you could be in finance, you could be in medicine. Like, wherever you are, if it doesn't have value in your purpose-driven life, then it's an automatic cause for review and perhaps readjustment. And same is true in the concept of being at a McDonald's or so, which, by the way, they getting paid pretty damn good now, that minimum, at least in New Jersey they do. And McDonald's has always been ahead of the curve in terms of benefits in the fast food industry, in the restaurant energy, food service energy in general. And I know that because I work there on a corporate level. So it is a company that offers education reimbursement and a lot of opportunity. Well, it used to be. I don't know about anymore. It used to be a lot of opportunities for advancement, not just within the restaurant, the operations tier, but even in the corporate ranks. Most of the corporate executives once worked in the restaurant on the crew member level up to management, regional management. Like there's a lot of growth to climb the ladder there where it used to be, and to expand into different markets, marketing and human resources and all types of stuff. But anyway, I'm certainly not promoting any corporation or another, because they all have their faults. Because like I said, they gave me the axe in 2008 when the market started crashing, and I don't know if they ever added that position back to the roster again. And I thought it was a very important one to kind of be the bridge between operations and the corporation. But I feel like that's why I was saying I feel like it's something that's returning more out of necessity than at that point. I mean, well, I guess they probably saw the necessity for it too in a different way, but they had a lot more money to flexibly spend to fund that agenda. Now it kind of seems more of a sacrifice, but still a necessity nonetheless. So whereas before there was plenty of flexibility to just do something that would in the long run be beneficial for the company anyway, but that also really wasn't a whole bunch of sweat off the company's back, because there was hella money to be made before things started falling apart. Now things are kind of falling apart, but it's still necessary to kind of like make that investment in order to keep to avoid a more detrimental decline, or I guess a fatal decline, and certainly to secure any possibility to survive, to survive this transitional time. So it'll be clear who's been submissive and surrendered to the change by who's still around. And I'm telling you, this shrinkflation stuff is getting ridiculous. Like everything's coming in smaller sizes for just as much the same money, if not more. Tropicana has I don't know if you're a Tropicana juice drinker, but I usually get them for my son, and I forget what ounce it is. It might have been the 64 or 52. I can't remember, but it's much less now. It's like a skinny little square bottle now, where it used to be a stout, like almost kind of cylinder, but not quite. I don't know what you would call that shape, but it was like a stout bottle, and then the narrow neck, if you can visualize it. Now it's like this skinny little cylinder-esque shape of a bottle that I'm getting barely 2/3 of as many cups as I was getting before out of it, and the price ain't much different. I'm like, okay, how do we justify this? Beloved Tropicana, of which there is no other orange juice that I prefer to drink personally. I'm looking at them sideways like, y'all gotta be kidding me now. Soap, smaller than ever, Dove soap. And it's like, you wouldn't notice it except for the fact that you do, because the change is so subtle, but it's so apparent at the same time. Matter of fact, real, probably TMI, but real life experience today. I went to make some spinach dip, and I make it with frozen spinach, and I always use this particular container. Haven't made it in a while, but have made it a million times almost. And so I was preparing it today, and I'm noticing that where usually the contents is like barely fitting in this particular container, it's not even at the top. So that means it's something else that I was like, I said to my son, they done shrinkflation the spinach, Jay. Oh God. I'm like, I can't, even frozen spinach, that's what we doing. And I wouldn't really notice it in the size of the packaging, but the contents must be smaller because I know my eyes are not deceiving me. So, you know, stuff like that is not going to continue to fly eternally. You know, there's some adjustment that's going to have to be made, and maybe that even that renegotiation for satisfaction could be from businesses to customers or to whomever they serve. You know, I could even be talking about that, like people are just going to start squeezing their own more, which I should be doing anyway. But hell, oranges is probably high too, you know, which may be the excuse as to why Tropicana is doing what they do. But still, you know what I mean? Like, where else can we cut the fat to satisfy our loyal customers? You know, and I don't mean necessarily to cut your employees, but hey, maybe even cutting the fat from the top down of these exuberant salaries. Think about, you know, what executives get paid, and imagine the last time they took a pay cut, you know, or more importantly, the last time they had a raise. And you could you could make a point for consideration right there. But anyway, I'll just log that in the suggestion box, I suppose, spiritually. The spiritual suggestion box. All right, so we got the Hierophant, but this is what I'm saying. Like, this is the Five of Cups, which is definitely some despair here, which could be the outcome of those that refuse to bend, refuse to compromise, refuse to appease their customer or their employees justifiably. And they could be not only dissatisfied by their losses, you know, in spirit and in truth, because people are the spirit and then the prophets are the truth. They may also find themselves in a stagnant position. And this could also be the energy of those that feel, you know, like they have to more or less sacrifice themselves to a system that they find no pleasure in for the sheer purposes of a sense of security. Where I gave that, you know, comparison before between the Five of Wands and everything else that was on the board, like valuing your fulfillment versus your finances, and actually coming to terms with the fact that you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. That's just the conditioning to believe that you do, that it can't possibly be that you could have both, or that you have to work so hard in the things that are financially gainful that you know it's an automatic that you are sacrificing some level of fulfillment, whether it's time, energy, desirability in what you're doing or how you're earning, where you're earning, who you're working for, all of those things. You know, it's like, this isn't great energy. What's on the bottom here? Five of Wands, yeah. And then look at that, Eight of Pentacles. Exactly, here's the truth right here. Exactly, this is the clarity of it all, that you don't have to sacrifice. You could be busy at work, lost in your job, doing the things that are most in alignment with who you are naturally, and bringing stability and harmony to your home life. See, the industry as it was never really wanted that cat out of the bag, because then it would make them expendable instead of you being, or disposable, I suppose, instead of you being disposable and feeling that you have to get in line with the terms and orders and commands of the corporation, however that's established. We could even be talking about the corporation of the country itself on a very macro level. that would want you to get in alignment with its terms in order to feel like you're safe and secure. But once the illusion of that security is broken down for its true value, it doesn't really hold as much weight as it did before. And so therefore those that are you know, what's the right word, like kind of I don't know, like that are like monopolizing that agenda, I guess, so to speak, or that's not the word, monopolizing is not the word, but the ones that are maybe managing or are facilitating perhaps that agenda. Facilitating feels too casual. It's something more intrusive. I can't find the word, but let's just say facilitating, to put it mildly, lose their effect and their influence. Hence where I'm saying that there's a transfer of power now, where it's like they're going to still need workers. The job, they can AI project all that they want. There is nothing that will ever trump the human spirit in its full consciousness at that. Some AI might even be smarter than some zombie humans, perhaps, but it's still, or I should say more productive than zombie humans. It still would only be in the best interest of prosperity to opt for the human spirit to be in full acclamation of the societal order. Yeah, it doesn't work any other way, no matter what they think. And maybe they'll find that out the hard way, perhaps. Maybe they will. One thing for sure is those that have kind of, wow, look at this, the Five of Pentacles, the Five of Wands again. Those that have broken out of this mentality don't really have that to worry about, because whether or not the powers that were realize the error of their ways is really not going to be as much of a detriment to anyone else but them in the long run, which is very significant for how this is lined up here. Yeah, the king, exactly. The King of Wands is not worried about the misgivings of less wise and foolish, intentions. He's only really focused on the territory that he feels an assignment to, or feels some call or lure or magneticism to. So that's pretty much like minding your business and, not really allowing yourself to be too consumed with the way of the world or how society is shaping up any more than you are on that Eight of Pentacles energy, just kind of keeping your head down and your head up at the same time and working on what suits you. Like, there's more impact and impression that can be made in that intention, on that agenda. Again, being the I in your I am than anything, because we can get caught up in the projections of the way the world is going and how the society that we inhabit is operating, and our place in it or outside of it, and the effects of it or our effect on it. In any way, you can kind of be distracted if you're not careful. But the best way to be most productive and prosperous is really to just keep focusing on what you're building and creating, the world that you idealize to live in, not making it the top choice or the commandment for anyone else, because that may not be a reality for anyone else to experience. But if you are recognizing that you hold the power, like for instance, some people might just they don't mind working at a place they hate with people they hate, doing stuff that they can't stand. As long as they're getting a paycheck, that might be good enough for some people, and that's okay. You know, it has to be. But just something as primitive as that, someone could be okay pledging their life to that existence before you have to be, and it could still, the two realities could still mutually exist and not have too much of an effect. Of course, we all affect each other in some way, but not make too much of an impact on one or the other. So in the small ways and in the great ways, as long as you are zeroing in on your manifestation and your intentions to live the most magnificent life you can visualize, and also empower and kinetic energy, like actually work in the smart way toward it, you know, not work in the exhaustive way, but actually put all your senses to work for that realization. You're actually doing a greater service to humanity and all of creation than any of these high profile companies combined, than all of them combined, I should say. Which is why you're at the top of the food chain, at the pyramid, because it's the work that you've already committed yourself to that is making a difference, that ultimately is contributing to changing the ideals of those that have held power for so long to now more or less have to do something different, to have to kind of release their grip on creation, definitely through gritted teeth, you know, for most of them. But that part is not what really matters. It's the effect that matters most, even in the ways that it has nothing to do with you, because you may not even have a desire to work in corporation. This is in reverse. Wow, judgment in reverse. Wow. So this is like not moving forward, not answering to your higher calling, not having things go in your favor for sure. This is the energy. Shoot. Now it's making me think, are we talking about the other half of that message from the first spread, of somebody sitting back trying to watch all their handiwork? Oh, it could even be, like I said, connected to the powers that created this system of competition and kind of have sat back to kind of collect the benefits and rewards. And this is how the return is coming back around, i.e. karma, you know, pretty much. And think judgments that have been made now being overturned by a higher authority. In this case, like where others have taken the liberty to be that higher authority, that head of power, now things are shifting. Like I said, it's coming down to entities of all the pillars, all the 5 pillars that we know of, having to surrender their old tactics, their old initiatives, their ambitions. Hell, in some ways, the profits and resources and benefits that they've earned on account of this great imbalance that they have essentially created and facilitated. Yeah, I've never gotten a judgment in reverse. Wow, but here's the justice in the upright. That's confirmation on that. It's a higher court in order now. And it's overturning things that seem to have been the norm or the standard, like the non-negotiables. Like, this is just how it's done. This is the way it works. This is the system. This is our conditioning. That's just how society is, or that's just how your city or town is, or that's just how this country is. This is definitely giving poor judgment as well, with the judgment in reverse. And that may be what's being called into justice and into order, is the poor judgments that have been operating as supreme force in the world. Again, sitting back and just watching their handiwork, watching us fight over scraps that should be free. You know what I mean? I.e., since the Four of Wands came up, I've been looking at the housing market like, oh, y'all days is numbered. How people can't even afford to buy a house. I was watching a couple things one day about home ownership, and how, like, the things that nobody tells you that you don't know, like how people can get into a home at one mortgage rate, and then years later, if not that, because some people was like the next year, their mortgage about doubled, and they were never informed, or if you don't really know, you don't know. Their mortgage doubled, or every so often it gets reevaluated or something like that, and it could go up from what you originally settled for. That's devastating for somebody that has a fixed income, and that's where you were approved to purchase. Who can pay double in this financial, this economic climate? Who can afford to even pay, especially when we're paying double in damn groceries? Back to my point. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's a rat race. So it literally could be that, like, the powers that were that are having to be humbled to renegotiate for. But the thing is, it's like, it'll be hard to really trust those energies anymore. Like, it could never be what it was, because once your eyes are opened to the truth, it's like when you've been connected to somebody for years, and you thought all this time that they were, of course they had their own agenda, their own personal, motives for life, to do well and to protect their own interest, I guess I should say. But you pretty much felt like you were in good enough hands, like safe hands, to be able to trust yourself with them, or around them, or in association with them, whatever it is, only to find out that it's been somebody that was always doing you dirty, that was always taking more than what they were given, and giving you the impression that it was like a mutual exchange, a harmonious connection. And that can range in so many different ways, but I'm trying to keep it general. But it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be anything intimate, it could be a boss, in any way, shape, and form. It could be a corporation. Like I said, I'm sitting here singing the praises of McDonald's as I knew it, but I don't know what the hell they do over there now. And honestly, I don't know what was going on behind the veil when I was there. I only knew as much as what I was told or what I was privy to. So it's like thinking that this is like a happy enough medium. You give me a little money, I can afford to live. I give you my energy and time, and you can afford to get rich. You know, you can build and everyone's happy here. You give me a little health benefits, a little vacation, a couple weeks here and there, and everybody's happy, you know. But then to find out that there's been something more sinister happening at the core, it's deeper than it just being like I'm not getting paid what I'm worth or there's been some withholding. It's something deeper that could probably be the judgment in reverse. It's like finding out the company you worked for has been like, oh my gosh, I can't even say what I just heard because it's too triggering. But like, let's say, I can't even say that. Like, it's just something evil. And then it's like a shock to the senses because you're like, shit, not only did I not know, I was associated with this, I was connected to this, I had no idea, not let alone how you were affected by it. Like all of that processing down to your reality is numbing to a great degree. But like I said, it's numbing, but it's also liberating, and it's far more of a challenge and a charge for them to change than it is for those that have already submitted themselves to evolution in the way that the age is advancing us anyway. They're just late to the program or trying to, hold back time or hold back the progression of society, still trying to hold on to old business practices or ways of life and conventionalities that keep people captivated in these systems that they just haven't realized they're not beholden to anymore. And the more that there's realization, the less of a grip there will be. And then it'll be at the point of true desperation. Like now you have nobody to work for your company. So who's going to make you rich if you can't even get a product off of the assembly line, let alone out to market? So, and that could be the retribution, that could be the karmic order. I don't know. That's why I'm always erring on the side of hope for those to kind of see the future before it happens, or at least heed the warning, heed the signs. But when you're blinded by greed and power and control, sometimes it's hard to see the truth. But here it is with the King of Swords, the undeniable identity, and this could even be judgment on account of what has been a misrepresentation, and again now being almost sentenced to the raw organic nature of yourself, whatever that may be, you know what I mean, like down to the foundation of identity here. For some, that's no sweat, but for others, that's like a dressing down of sorts with the Hierophant to the King of Swords, like only having no bells and whistles, no, robes and crowns and adornments, no titles, maybe no accolades, no particular influence of power, no commanding influence per se, maybe no damn company at all. Could even literally be the dressing down of those to now having to get out in the market themselves to find employment. Could be with the King of Swords here, to put their hand to the plow in ways that they haven't been used to doing for years, maybe decades for some of them. With the judgment in reverse, that's the type of and the justice right behind it, that's the type of retribution karmic retribution that would make sense to me. And some people can't even, here's the depression at the center of it all, because some people can't even take that. the sheer thought of being anything less than what they have seized as a position to date is, I don't know, for some, yeah, like Eight of Cups, having to walk away from all that you may have built, all that you owned, everything that you've known, all the acknowledgments, awards, affiliate, like everything pretty much needing to be left behind or being lost in the past in general. Is like nothing even left to really hold on to almost have to move on to something else, to be someone else, or even to reinvent self altogether. This is a hopeful card with the Eight of Cups for sure, and it does take a lot of courage to do that. But I think it's the King of Swords here, because the only way to that successfully or through that transition is in the highest frequency of truth. And that's the hopefulness of this shift in power and the shift in, you know, societal order. But it's certainly not the standard, because everybody is not going to be able to do it so easily. Not everybody is going to be surrendered to the command of the universe in that way. I don't know what they're going to do in response, honestly. But anything that is contrary to that would ultimately be, it would ultimately be like self destructive. Because that's the other shift. Doesn't really have as much of an impact on the innocent anymore. You know, the ones that didn't know any better. Now they are all the wiser, most of them. So, and it also like affects the quality of energetic connections as well, because those that have kind of ascended to that star mentality, knowing their worth, knowing their value, setting their price, won't accept anything less. So that's what forces the hand to kind of like raise your offering, you know, your proposition, or to settle for lesser value. And then that is exactly how the product itself, whatever we're talking about here, begins to decrease in value and ultimately is slowly being diminished from sustainability, because you can't really cheap out on the labor, you know, especially when it's of a spiritual nature anymore, meaning the higher quality of life force. So the cheap substitutes are only going to pretty much work to shut your corporation down in the long run. And I can hear this in a very spiritual way too. Nothing can substitute for star beings, divine beings. No clones, no AI, back to that ideal. So even in the practical sense, I'm saying it that way. You can't fabricate the energy of star quality with subpar. It's not going to yield the same production. And ultimately, it's going to shut the whole operation down. Oh. Wow. Shut it all down. Four of Swords. lay it all to rest. And it also speaks again to this yield and surrender to truth and what the universe is calling for. Like, most of these high profile executives know how or know who to pay to more or less read the trends in business or in whatever industry they serve, or whatever industry serves them, we should say. But it's that spiritual projection that is premium right now, and that's where a lot of folks are really missing out on, in so many ways, like beyond business, personally, of course, but in every particular industry of the individual that you can consider. Even in the material sense, as I said, we had two very material cards with the King and Queen of Pentacles pop up early. But the key card was the Star, which is not tangible. It's the expression through humanity that gets to be physical, but the origin is spiritual. So, there's so many, it's like there's not going to be a way to get around the intangible frequencies of life force anymore. Although people will try, and they will try to resort to the old world, old way of doing things. Again, roll up my sleeves, give it a little elbow grease, rob Peter to pay Paul, manipulate this person to get that, finesse the proposition or the contract to yield my favor, or to appease my ulterior motive. Take as much as I can before I give any. Like, it's so many things that people are still going to try to do, mostly out of habit, and then out of resistance of change. But ultimately, when it's virtually unbearable to resist evolution anymore, hopefully not to the point where it's a judgment in reverse situation where literally source is kicking your ass left and right, is when people will actually get real and start to submit to the truth. Ace of Swords that came up in the beginning as well. That's an individualized truth. It is not a collective one so much. That Star is personal. So the truth for you can't be the truth for me. We may have an agreement on some things, but that's why it's silly to even fight or to compete, because everyone's path, everyone's destiny is so different that there literally is enough space for all to take up as much as they want for as long as they can. So in ways that it might be a nightmare for these forces that have been taking up too much space and gatekeeping the rest for too long, is really of no consequence to those that are getting hip to the truth of just how limitless life can be, and even to have the audacity to believe that it should be. Sucks for them if they don't get with the program, but it's amazing for all of us that already are with it. So let's see. Yeah, wow, with the Queen of Swords, I know that's right. again, another, damn, we had the King and Queen of Pentacles, and now we got it coming down to the King and Queen of Swords. That literally, well, no, I was gonna say that's literally spirit and truth, but that would probably be more cups and the pentacles, or maybe the cups and the swords. But it could be some aspect of that too, you know. This is air energy, so we could be talking about more of the spirit of our existence, the intangibility of it, the aspect of us that exists without form, you know, even as our thoughts are projective, you know, and then how that manifests, which in the same regard speaks to our thoughts and our visions and our intentions, and then them becoming a tangible expression, i.e. the Magician card. So yes, like the feminine energy, let's see, what's she looking at, or was she open to? Wow, the King of Wands came back out. So there's that action, that initiative. So putting the words, activating your intentions. Okay. With confidence and courage and limitlessness. That's what this is giving here. But you know what? But it's coming from the projection of your vision and your words. So it still comes from less is more, you know, because these, as much as the King of Wands can definitely get busy in more ways than one, it's definitely an active card, an action energy, a kinetic force. It's coming off of what you project to be true first, even what you say about yourself, first and foremost. Coming back to the very beginning. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Wouldn't come out. Of all of this. What do you pronounce or profess is true for you? That's absolute. That's where it starts and ends. And from that point is where your identity is truly initiated and affirmed. I love how these are facing each other. This King of Swords is speaking more to, you know, the surrender of that aggression, you know, from the realization to like the surrender or submission to it, right? But I love this, that this is the Queen of Swords facing the King of Wands, because this is like the acceptance of that truth. That's what it's given with the feminine energy. She's more receptive. It's literally accepting, which is the greatest part, you know, to activate a shift is to first accept the truth of where you are. And that's the void here, and the people, places, and things that have been intentionally holding creation back from evolving, is this refusal to accept the present, to release the past, and to accept what is now, and really act out of that truth and assert yourself in that intention. This hamster wheel of recreating cycles and old paradigms is just keeping everyone back. Well, sort of, because those that are okay with living above the fray, you can no longer be affected that way, thankfully. but it certainly would be, it would be an even more easeful experience for creation overall if it wasn't for the refusal of the insistence, the refusal of acceptance. Because everybody would be free to get on with it. And there would be fair conditions where, like I said, if everybody was playing fair, we could all be happy. You know? The workers at McDonald's would be happy to come in, do their job, and serve you, you know, with pleasure, like Chick-fil-A. And every other industry would feel validated, you know, for their energy. That's the unrest, is when you don't feel like your energy is appreciated and validated by its worth. When you're sacrificing any part of that for exchange of anything that feels much less than, is why there's such an energetic disparity in the vitality of work, which then affects the quality of it, even service itself and the product and all of that stuff. You know, it all trickles down, but it starts from the top down. And in this case, some people got to get fired or reassigned or realigned in order for there to be a more fluid pipeline of pleasure. Because what I didn't finish saying is that it would just be better for everyone to experience that flow of energy, of fulfillment, where they can, where there's desire to do so. But not for the few that are kind of cogs in the wheel or stopping up the flow, you know what I mean, clogging it up, is why it's taking so much time for everybody to get that wind, you know, that wind in their sails, so to speak. But it would be easier for us all if it wasn't so hard, or made to be so hard. Like, it wouldn't be as much of a struggle for the few that have chosen differently, seemingly few comparatively speaking, because everybody would be on that vibe, and there would truly be no need for competition. It wouldn't even be an ideal. Not really. Maybe really and truly just a pickup basketball game, or you know, like a friendly competition, but not the survival of the fittest kind. That doesn't really benefit anyone, or it certainly doesn't add value to the quality of life, of which at the core we all desire to have at the highest frequency we possibly can. That's one thing that I will say is a universal truth. So I guess what just varies is what we're willing to do or not do, or sacrifice, even of ourselves, to have that sheer satisfaction, or at least to delude ourselves that we're pursuing it, or on the way to obtaining it, or one day we're going to get there. Like, it's time to really manifest that ideal life for yourself, because nobody is going to do it for you better than you can. Everything else is just a tool in that process for you. But certainly you have to be the CEO of your own corporation. So, all right. I'll leave it there. Yeah, happy Monday, or no, Tuesday again. I'll see where I can jump in again before the week is out if possible. But in any event, thanks for tapping back in with me. Thanks for listening and watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of the week. And until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.